Hello, friends and everyone. Welcome back to Netcode-Hub channel. We are still working on integrating Google Authentication in Web API and consuming it in our Blazor WebAssembly app as our front end. This is the second video, and I believe you've watched the first video. In that, we spoke about how we can generate URL for login, direct access Google API, how we can have a callback, exchange code for access token, and then make it available, store that in database. Now, in the client, we're going to make a call to this API, and I'll get this access token, append it to the HTTP header, and I'll make an API call. So that's what we're going to be doing today. It's quite simple. Okay, so let me share my screen to what we did, and then let's continue from that. But if you haven't watched the first video, I think watching this video will not let you understand. Please check the video description or up there and check and watch that video first. I also make the playlist available. I think it's having two videos in it, and then I'm going to combine all these as one video as well. So making three videos in that playlist so you can watch them and get used to that. All right, so let's see. I'm sharing my screen to the project that we started, which is demo Google Authentication and API and Blazor WebAssembly. So I believe you can see the screen now, isn't it? So I want to check our last video that we did. We were able to add this Blazor project to it, but we did not touch it. And this time around, we are going to handle that Blazor. We are done with our API. Now, let me tell you this. It is not only Blazor front end that can consume this API. If you are building app with React, Angular, whatever it is, since if you can only make an HTTP call, which is an API call or RESTful API call, there you go. You can still consume this. So maybe I am using Blazor WebAssembly today, but maybe if you want to use React, if you want to use any other framework, well, you're good. You can work with that. So try that and let me know how it's going. But today we're going to be using Blazor because that is what I love to do. Okay, so now, within this, we need to install some packages for that. So I'm going to right-click on dependencies, then manage get packages. I think we need three packages for this. The first one that we're going to be using is an HTTP extension.http. So let's get these packages installed quickly. All right, so these are the packages that we need. We need component.authorization, we need extension.http, and then we need extensions.local storage. That is one of my packages. Well, if we don't want to use my package, you can still use Crescenti's package, which is blazor.local storage. Or if you want to use cookie, I also have a package that you can use to manage cookie. So there is a package that I created, so you can use it or use any other external package that you feel okay using that. If it meets the context of risk by adding or setting up the local storage and also retrieving values from it. All right, so get this installed. And the next thing I'm going to be doing is to create our hosted provider, which will be responsible for authenticating the user as soon as a page navigates. When you look at this state that we have created, we are injecting our local storage service from the Netcode-Hub, one of my packages. Start from that, we want to create a principal which takes in a default stuff, where meaning user here is not authenticated. Now from the abstract method, it has an inbuilt method here, that's the get authentication async. Now this method is going to get called as soon as you navigate to all components which have authorized components in them. We want to get the token from the local storage as string with the key that we have created. In case it isn't there, we want to return default, which means that the user is not authenticated. But in case we have the token from the local storage, then we want to deserialize it. Since it is already serialized, we want to deserialize that into a module of token which has two properties, access token and then the user ID. And you want to set the claims. Currently, we are having only user ID as a claim, so we are not having all the other detail of the user, such as the name, the email, and stuff. Maybe in the future video, we're going to see how we can work with that. Get all user claims from the Google Authentication service, and I'll set them as claims in here. But for now, we are having the user ID generated by our custom API that we have created. And then we want to return this auth. And the next thing here is we want to set the claim. So as you can see from here, we have the user ID. We create instance of these claims and we set as an item in that. Then I want to return claim principal with the current claim that we have from the claims identity. And then it takes in the scheme. If we do not specify the scheme, you're going to have issue with that. Authentication will not take place. And then we're going to notify our state to tell the state that, hey, something happened. So get refreshed so that we're going to have a new auth state in there. Okay. So now that we are good, we're here. The next thing that we're going to be doing, let me just clear this off. So after you are done with this, the next thing that we're going to be doing is to create a login. Now, it's only a button that we need because here we want to tell the user that, hey, log in with Google. Okay, we are not going to provide any form. As soon as the button is clicked, we know we call the API to get us the URL and then open the browser straight for user to communicate with the Google API and not our API. So let's do that from our home component or home pages folder. Let's go in. I think I should close this API because we're not working on that. And let me open the pages. We have 3 components. We have the counter. Let's use one here. Let's create one as login. So before we work on the login component, let's go to our import and let's add all the necessary injections that we need to do. So let's inject the following. So these are what we need to inject so we can use them in all the components. Now let's go back to our login and have our button and our method code. So when you have a look with this, you see from here, we are just having a simple button with a login async event wired up to this button. When it gets clicked, we want to create a client with our client name. So here we're going to be using constant.client because we are having that in the constant. So we need to use that there. Okay. So, and here we're going to navigate to this authorized route in our endpoint that we created. And in case it is successful, we want to navigate to the response. So now that we have this login, when you check our controller endpoint, we are having a callback that's going to be executed. So controller authorized controller. You see from here, this callback is sending to a component with a route of connect and having a user ID. So we need to go and create that. So in our component or in our pages, let's add one component with that. So in here, we are injecting our Auth state provider, and I think this can be sent to our import razor file. Okay. Now in here, we are also using this Auth state, which is going to get the current state of the user. We're going to take in a parameter of ID, as you can see from here. It's going to pass on from the header, not from the header as a query. That's a parameter from this. Okay. Then when the parameter set async, maybe when this changes, we want to create a client and then check if user is authenticated, they want to log in, because we want to navigate to the home page, because before you access this, users should not be authenticated, because this page is the process of authenticating the user. So if you're already authenticated, then what are you coming to do here? You see? Yeah, so we check if the parameter is not null. That is where we want to get this. We call this authorize the token. We pass in the ID to get our access token. When we have the access token, we want to read it over here as an access token. Then all that we're going to be doing is we are also calling this auth state changes to notify the auth state that, hey, you need to get changed. But before we do it, we need to save this item to the local storage. So let's save that. After we read it from here, we can use this local storage to do it. So we save it to local storage, and then we notify the auth state and navigate. Now, when we navigate to login, we need to reload it. So when we load it, that is when this is going to work well. If you don't reload it, although you are logged in, you're authenticated, but the current state here will not be reflected. So we need to make sure we have this set to true. Okay, so that is what we need to do here. Now let's go to that component and authorize it. So when you check our solution, you go to the app.razor, we need to authorize this route. So let's have this authorize. Now this should come from the namespace or the use statement of this for this authorized route view. Why you have issues here? I think this is a problem of the Visual Studio. At times we need to restart this or close and open it again, but never mind, this is going to work. You're doing the right thing. Okay, so let's go to the home page and maybe we can get claims. So maybe let me grab this. Let's go to solution. From the home page, you want to make sure you're authenticated. So maybe here we don't want to have login already because we have a button. So if you're authorized, that is where we need to get this. Now we still need this, so maybe we can put this in the import. Yeah, then this should stop. So you want to get a claim from the name identifier. Remember that when setting up the claims, we set up the name, the ID, user ID as name identifier, and want to grab it. So if you're authorized, we need to see it here. But if you are not, then you're going to see you are not authorized. Now let's manage our nav menu so we can include our login to direct to the component and also our logout button too. So solution, then check from here your layout nav menu, and in that we can have this. We can just copy and paste this, and I'll change the route. This is quite simple, so I'm not going to waste time to do that. I have that you need to use this authorized view. Then if you're not authorized, you want to see this login. Now this login should go take you to login. But in case you're authorized, then log out. So this is not navigating to any component, but rather we're going to be having a method or event wired up to. Now what we need to do here, we need to just go and clear the token from the cookie storage, from the local storage, and then refresh or reload the page. So you can have a simple method to handle that. Now this is going to make that work. We still use the local storage service. We delete the item. So since we have this set as a constant, let's use that constant.key and to delete that and then navigate to the page, home page, whilst we reload it. So now as I speak, we're going to have the token in the local storage. Now let's go to our weather component. Now in that we're going to make an API call to this weather component, which is authenticated, right? And then we need to provide the access token to the header before we can move on with that. So click on the weather.razor component. In here, instead of injecting this HTTP client, no, we're not going to use that. We're going to use the client factory, so we can create our own client, add the token to the header, and then we can move on making an API call. So it means that I have this simple method. You can see when the page initializes, that is what we're doing here. We want to clear this one and then replace it with this by getting the token from the local storage. Let's have our constant use. Then if token is not equal to null, we want to create a client. Now on this client too, we need to use our constant name. So that is a constant. And then we're going to deserialize it because it has deserialized in there and we are deserializing it. This is HTTP client factory. Then after we get the token from here, we want to check here to see the header that we have, which is this client. We're going to add this token to the header as a form of what bearer, and then there is a token. After that, make an API call, which is get call to the endpoint, and now get the results here. So the main thing here is this. Okay, we are adding the token to the header before making an API or HTTP call. If we don't do that, we're going to have issue with it. Okay, so we need to do that. So the last part here is to go to our program from our client and then register all the services that we have created or installed and or using. So let's first get rid of this because you're going to be using a new package that we installed. We don't need to use this HTTP client. And let's register all the services here. So here we want to set the base address. So let's go to the solution. Then we want to check the API properties. What is the base address of this? Check the LAN settings and grab it here 7102 and go and add it here. So that is all. We need to add authorization call to. Then last part is let's add package service. So that is without services dot add Netcode-Hub thing dot add local storage service, and this should come from using packages, extensions, or local storage. Okay, so we are good. Now we're going to log in here. Not log in. Let's test this up by running it. So we're going to run both the client and now the server. And in here, let's set for configure startup project. Go to multiple startup. And then from API, start with that debugging Blazor 2 same. And then let's give it name, new. So we have it selected. And I'll click on this to run. So the app is ready now. Now let's see why we are having some issues. Let's go and check from the inspector console, and then it is saying that no authentication state provider has been registered, and that's true. We did not register that. So let's go and do that from. You can add it here. So as scope, then our state provider, we specify a custom one that we created. Let's rerun. And I'm sure there's no issue again. So you can see you're not authorized. So you have login, you're not authorized login. Now, if I click on login, let's see, we come back to this login component, but I think the route did not do the right thing. Let's say from the login, we did not specify even route, right? I believe we did that. Good job. Okay, again. So our API is active. Then we have it here. So you can see we are logged in. So home, you are not authorized. When you check from your application, look at it, we have no data here. Now click on login, and then we have login with Google. If I click on this, it should make an API call, then it should return an authorized URL, as you can see from here. So it has directed me from my component, from my application to Google page, where I can sign in and choose to sign in with this app that we created. If I click on continue, say from the network tab, an API call will be sent to the API, and in there we're going to have access to our token. So it's gone. It's a flash. Okay, so you can see, hey, you're authorized now, isn't it? Now go and check application, and I see you can see we have the token as an access token. Then you have the user ID over here. You can decide to scrap the user ID as soon as you add it to the token authentication, so that you do not see it here. So you can decide to get rid of that. Now leave only this user the access token here. It's a choice that you need to choose how you want to build your system up to. And then if I click on logout, you see it is off, and then we reload the page, and then we have, hey, you're not authorized. Let's do this again, and then continue. Now we're going to have the key. Yes, so we do have it. That is our token. And then with this, we're going to make an API call with this to see whether the token will be added to the header. So go to the network tab, and then let's clear this. Check it out, weather forecast. Now we have this response here. Click on this, and now check it out. You can see we are having the token attached to the header. And if you do not do that, you're going to have 401. You can try that. You can stop adding this token to the header from the weather component, and I rerun this again, and you're going to see that, hey, you're going to have 401, meaning you're not authorized. And if I log out, we are done. Now, maybe if you're wondering whether if I refresh this, I'll not be authenticated. Let's see. You only log in, you refresh this, let's see whether, yeah, you are still authenticated. You call this, and you have the API, right? Now from the home, you are still reload it, check it out, you are still authorized. That's great. And that is the claim that we specify the user ID, and we have it here. And that is it, guys. So we've seen how we can consume this authentication token from our client, which is the Blazor WebAssembly. I told you earlier that it could be Blazor, it could be any other framework application as well. Okay, so all that you need to do here is, after you consume the token, you add it to the header before you make an API call, and that is it. All right, so I believe you've learned something here, and if you have been able to do it as I have done, isn't it? If you have an issue with any of the code here, or trying to do it but you are facing some issue, put that issue in the comment below, and I'll attend to you, help you solve that. All right, so I'm going to catch up again. Stay tuned for the next, because, well, what is the next thing I'm going to talk about? I don't know. I don't know yet. But stay tuned, because I have a lot of goodies for you. And also, if you haven't subscribed, I always say this is the time. Give me a thumbs up to this video if you have learned something and you have been able to do this. Catch you up again. So then, take care.